Welcome to Be Bold Branding, everybody. I'm Tanya Eberhardt, founder of BrandFace, and we help business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate professionals differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hi, folks. I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was a client actually before I became a partner in the company, and now we're the only comprehensive brand building system on the globe. And we do Be Bold branding to help people take the fear out of putting themselves out there. And we've got a fantastic show lined up for you today. This is a fantastic guest that we have for you.
That's right. And talking about Be Bold, I mean, what more bold person could we invite on here today than Grant Wise? Grant, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Thank you so much. I'm pumped to be here.
We're excited to have you. We were on your podcast and we so enjoyed it and so thankful that you accepted the invitation to come on to Be Bold Branding. But I'm going to give everybody just a little snippet of your background, but actually I'd like for you to share more of your story with us as we go throughout the podcast. But you are a serial entrepreneur. President and co-founder of Witly, which is a client generation software for real estate agents. You are known to be, and I love this term, a maverick leader, an innovative marketing strategist who is unafraid, and that's what we were talking about today, being fearless and bold, unafraid to lead companies into success and into new directions. So I'll kind of just cut it short right there because I want to in the introduction of you with this quote that I absolutely love. You say you live by this quote, I'm not trying to be the most successful, I'm working to be the most valuable. You want to share your insight a little bit about that particular quote?
Yeah, I love it. I think it was an old Mark Twain quote. I learned that a little bit after I said it, which I'd love to give him credit for. He's done a little more than I have, but it's a mantra. It's a mindset. I think that in the world we live in today, if you're out there looking at your own self-interest and you're just trying to figure out how you can benefit yourself, you're not going to go very far. And I've discovered that the more I help people, the more I gain. I think success and money and fame and relationships and all those things are a byproduct of the value add to this world. And so that's where that comes from.
Very cool. Very cool. That'll segue right into the first question, right? So, I've watched a lot of your videos, watched the video, one of your latest ones where you talked about your story and just connected with your clientele on a more personal level. And you shared a lot about what your ups and downs, especially as a younger business serial entrepreneur. And so, being bold is what this whole podcast is about, and putting yourself out there. You have clearly done that many, many times. So, pick a time when you're at your lowest, if you would, and talk about what you did, the fears, the challenges, and then what you did to overcome that to push you down the road to where you are now.
Yeah, man, I love the question. I'm not the guy that woke up and became successful. I'm the guy that grew up poor. I got really successful. I failed my face off and became successful again. And then I failed again. And then I became successful again. I'm the guy that's ruined it a few times and I figured out how to come back from it. So I would say one of my favorite memories of failure or just being at a lower point in life, I think I was 23 at the time. I developed a successful company and I'd actually had 6 companies at the time and was in the middle of a project and things just, they went downhill. They went downhill fast. I lost every single thing that I had. I lost most of the relationships I had. I lost it all. And I did the dumbest thing on planet Earth. I had my vehicle repossessed. I was talking about being bold. I'm talking about repossessions here. I had my vehicle repossessed the same day. That's how silly I was, really younger on in my business journey. I went out and bought a brand new car. And they didn't know because they didn't know that I'd been repossessed from it early that morning. So I got a new car, bought a new vehicle, and I couldn't make even the first payment, second payment, and come the third payment. It was time for them to pick the vehicle back up. And I remember this. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. I called an old coach that I had who was like a father to me. This dude was a legend, love him to death. And I tell this story often because I want to make sure he knows how important he is. And I said, hey, man, I'm going through some stuff right now. Business isn't good. I've made some mistakes. I've got this vehicle and they're going to repossess it if I don't make the payments. Is there any way that you could help me out with some money? Would you loan me a little money to make sure that, this doesn't happen? And he's like, yeah, I think we'll figure something out. So he called me back. It was like 9:30 at night. I'm standing on the curb at a bar, somewhere I didn't really need to be. And he says, I think that you should let that vehicle go. And I was like, no, come on, man. Like I thought, in my mind, I'd solved my problem, and I did solve my problem. I just didn't solve it the way that I thought I was going to. And he said, I think it's a little silly. I don't know if you can see this or not, but to have a vehicle that you can't afford isn't really something that you should be doing. And I'm not going to continue to enable the poor behavior. And I said, come on, coach, it's the only thing I got. Everything's been taken from me. It's the only nice thing I have left. And he turned to me. Well, he didn't turn to me over the phone. He said, I hear that you have a ton of pride in your voice. And I want to be really honest with you right here and say that you don't deserve any of the nice things that you may or may not have in your life right now. It's your pride, it's your ego that is driving this conversation. And I'm here to tell you, if you'll make a change, your life will never be the same. But if you keep going down this path, I think you can see now where you're headed. And I'll never forget, it was as soon as the words came out of his mouth, like in an instant, my mind shifted. And I said, you know what? He is absolutely right. Again, this was a man I highly respected, I really cared for. And he had the gumption to say, like, hey, wake up, dude, because this isn't where you're going. You don't want to go where you're going. And I did a turn. I literally I turned around and I decided to change my entire life. I decided to start looking at the decisions that I was making that really was leading me down the wrong path. And I decided to, become a really good student of who I had been. And, started to, because one of the greatest things that a human being can do is learn how to swallow your pride and live with a little less ego. And it's magical how that complements, even some of the quotes that we were talking about. Being a valuable person can make you can become so much more valuable in the relationships you have, and this and that and the other, and the businesses you have, if you learn to stop looking at life through a lens of pridelessness or pride and live with more pridelessness. You can make decisions that not only help you but help more people. And so that was a defining moment in my life. And I'll never forget it for the rest of my life, because it totally changed the trajectory of where I was headed. And my life looks, completely different 5 or 6 years later now. We're outside of that conversation, but this is just one of the highlights of my down times. I made a bunch of dumb decisions, and I was a young kid. I grew up with very little money, and then when I had some, nobody ever taught me how to spend it. But it helps you develop an even stronger ego as a 21, 22-year-old kid when you get all the money that you ever thought you would ever need. And so that was definitely a highlight.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. Yeah, that's super good. God bless those people that show up like that are willing to tell us the truth at the time when we probably would hear it. You know what I mean? There might have been other people tell you that along the way, and you were in no place to hear it. That's I love those stories like that.
Yeah, and
people don't realize. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tanya, but people don't realize a lot of times that is being humble is the most bold thing that you can do. Because it's the honest truth. We're all just humans. We all have the same emotions, the same fears, the same drivers, the same values, hopefully core values and stuff. We're really no different no matter what the station is. And so very good. Really cool.
I saw in your story, Grant, some parallels to Michael's life. And that's why, I knew today was going to be a special day for this interview, because there are parallels there. And Michael, I don't know if you want to, touch on those. We don't have to elaborate, but it's pretty awesome.
Well, and watching your thing about the construction and stuff, we had a construction wing in our company, and we're making like bank in the REO business. And then I had a portfolio, so I had a crew, so I started selling what the crew could do, and it turned into a construction company. And then we lost all of our clients. We lost 4 of our 5 major, they were all publicly traded companies that were buying houses, and we were doing the rehabs for them. We lost we had 5 major contracts. We lost 4 in 1 month, and then the 5th one the next month. So in 2014, I'm staring at all this payroll and insurance, and you know, we had 6 trucks and 6 full-time crews running, and it was like, I was like, brakes on fast, and we got to figure something out. So yeah, a lot of parallels there. And then in the way you grew up too, I can definitely identify with what it was like. I grew up, my dad was in the car business, and he made bank money. Like, he made a lot of money in the early 80s. And then by the early 90s, he had drank it all away in planes and boats, and started taking days off. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, you never take a day off. Like, oh, it'll be fine. And then one day was 2 days, 2 days. Then it got where it wasn't working, you know, and it just, his whole portfolio fell apart. I watched all of that, but it allowed me to, I think, later on, to overcome a lot of what I overcame. Like, I think I could face what happened to me in 2014 because I'd watched what happened with my dad, and he was not a humble guy. Like, he would just, you know, he had a couple of friends try to bail him out. He'd run him off his lot, you know, because he was just so determined he'd do it himself, and it was too late, you know, and it was the lack of humility is really what harmed him the most. So,
yep.
So Grant, fast forward a bit to when you started working with real estate agents and you realized, hey, I've got something super valuable here to share. And it started for you, correct me if I'm wrong, with Facebook ads and realizing you could get leads, you could get clients, and figuring out how to do that and teaching other people to do that same thing. Take me back to that day when you realized that. And what was that driving force? Like, what made you say, hey, this is it. This is like a great direction for me to head in.
Man, I fell into that. It was probably just by luck, because I started a real estate brokerage when I was 21 years old. So I grew up in the real estate industry. And, you know, at the time I thought I was really good at starting companies. And so we started a real estate brokerage. We paid our agents 100% commission, and we wanted to be in 500 markets in 5 years. So my job was kind of to go out and recruit and launch offices and so on and so forth. And, you know, I think we went 2 years. I went without a paycheck, traveling the country, sleeping in airports. I mean, just grinding it out. And it was about the time I had to file bankruptcy legally that the people that we brought in to help us fund the business said, we think you're the reason this company's not growing. That was September 13th, 2014. And they said, we think you're the reason this company's not growing. We want you to leave. Now I'm sitting there, I'm this young kid. I've got a lot of pride and ego. And I was like, look, I own 51% of this business. I think you should leave. How about that? You know, like, how about we do this a different way? And, my step grandfather was actually a partner in the company, and he had agreed with, you know, the opposite side. Like, hey, I think this isn't going the way that we thought it should. And, you know, maybe we should make some adjustments. And so I sat back and I thought about it. I said, you know what? I've been trying to teach everybody around me to use social media, to use video, to use Facebook, to grow their business. And nobody's really paying attention. I said, you know what? I'm the youngest person in this company by 2 or 3 times my age. Maybe it is time for me to go where I'm appreciated a little bit more than I'm just tolerated. And so I signed my business over, or my rights to the company over, and freaked out. Like, what the heck am I going to do for money? Like, this was it. This was my entire identity. I poured everything into this organization, and, you know, in a week it was all gone. And I said, you know what? I'm going to teach agents what I've been trying to teach them all along. I'm just going to teach, you know, realtors how to use Facebook advertising to grow their business. And so I launched my little social media boot camp program. I'd had like literally a week of it done, and I had $25 to my name. I was bankrupt at the time. My wife now, who's my girlfriend then, she jokes that she's the one that gave me the $25. And so I launched an advertisement, and I got a customer. And it was September 1st, 2014 was the day we got our first customer. And there was a lot of really unique things that happened in those moments. I learned that I still had value. I just wasn't seen on a local level, right? I learned that I was still a valuable person. I just needed to be around people that saw that. And I learned that every $25 I spend, I make 1,000. I was pretty blown away by that. And so the first customer that I had with my company sold 48 houses the first year we worked together, $150,000 in income. And then the second customer did similar. And then the third did similar, and the fourth did similar. And what I was finding is that everybody I was working with, as long as they were taking my advice and following what I was working with, or following the advice I was giving them, working with them, they were making about 6 figures in roughly 8 or 9 months. And I was like, man, I'm doing some cool stuff here. People are making a lot of money. I'm a little more introspective at this point in my life, and I'm really doing the work on the inside. And things seem to be going the right way. I joined a mastermind from a sales mentor, or with a sales mentor at the time, and I attended this mastermind in Arizona in 2015, September of 2015, and we had built up to about $100,000 a year business. Definitely a much better situation than I was in the previous 2 to 3 years. And it was December 2015. We decided to package it up as an information product and sell it as a course. And that next year, we did $1.8 million in income. And we brought in over 640 students. The next year, we doubled the price, brought in 656 students or something like that. We did $3.8 million in income, and our lives just completely changed. So I'd love to say it was because I was great, and that's what it was. And I knew how to do this, and I knew how to do that, and so I came in. But the truth is that I was not in the best situation, and that was because of the choices that I had made, and decided to take a step back and go a different direction than I had originally thought, and launch a product just because that's the only option I had at the time. And thankfully it worked out. And I ended up when we go back to the real estate company, our plan was to be in 500 markets in 5 years. And I look back, and I ended up, we were in a little over 600 markets, just in a different way in less than 5 years. And that's kind of how it all unfolded. It was definitely not because I was so smart. It was because I needed to survive and pay my bills. And ended up that we were adding a ton of value to people, and we were really helping change their lives. If our clients weren't getting the results they were getting, if they weren't doing the work, I would be sitting here. So it wasn't really anything that I did. I just stayed in the fight and provided the right information to the right people.
Well, I'll go back to Michael's quote. One of the smartest things you can do, if not the smartest thing you can do, is to have humility. So I think you did do something there, Grant,
Yeah.
because you had to be open to the fact that you didn't know everything, and your ego was way bigger than it needed to be. And we've all faced moments like, that in our lives. And I love what you said early on about failing your face off. Because I don't even want to take any advice from anybody who has not failed before.
That's right.
Why would you? Because they have not developed a strength to overcome. And you
I would agree with that. You got the average millionaire in the world's filed 1.8 bankruptcies. That's a funny statistic, but you can go spend $250,000 and go to business school, but until you jump in the ring and get knocked in the mouth, you're not going to have a true understanding for what it is like to grow and build a business. And so, I didn't go the traditional route. I failed out of college. I was 19, twice, 2 semesters in a row. And so I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. Good. Because I love the story. I think it tells volumes for what this podcast is all about, which is being bold, and being bold enough to admit when you didn't make the best choices.
Yeah. And I have to say, like making it sort of ethereal, it's weird. You actually were trained through all of those things that you went through to lead and be successful at what your initial success was. That was I had a mentor tell me one time, he was like, everybody pays to go to school, Michael. Everybody pays to go to school.
Everybody does. That's facts.
And you paid the price, right? And then, of course, James Brown said, pay the price to be the boss, right? So you paid the price to be the boss. But you also, every one of those little failures, it's not lost on me that you wanted to be in 500 markets with a company that wasn't a fit for you and didn't appreciate or value that, the no doubt hard work and effort that you were putting into it, even if your attitude at times was wrong and it wasn't a perfect fit. That perfect fit was because you're a perfect fit for what you're doing. And then when you had all those distractions that made you turn yourself around, the right mentor to say something to you in the right spot, you actually were sitting in the perfect place to do exactly what you've done. And that's beyond amazing to me when I hear stories of successful people.
I think it's something that's really valuable for people to learn. I'm trying to look at the title of the book. That's why I keep looking at my screen. It's called The Shadow Effect. And there's a great author inside of The Shadow Effect. That was written for there were three authors of that. Deepak Chopra was one, but it was Debbie Ford who said this. I read this in the book on the advice of a mentor. It's something called duality. I think that we have to understand that most people take life's circumstances and say, why is this happening to me? Why is this that's more of a victim, what we all think of as a victim's mindset. And when you understand the law of duality, you understand that you can look at it the way that you looked at it, which was why, and that's where I was earlier in life. Why are all these things happening to me? I donated my kidney back in 2012 and went through the next 18 months of the most horrible, horrific hell that I could have ever imagined, all because of choices I was making. Granted, thinking, why is this happening to me? I must be a good person. I must. And then I learned about this thing called duality through a friend, and I just learned this a month ago. But this is what I did back then. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop looking at all these things that happened to me, and I'm going to try to understand how they happened for me, right? What was I supposed to learn? What was I supposed to glean? The Bible teaches this. What you meant for evil, God meant for good, right? If we decided to look at things the way that we should, which is there's the bad way that this, may have happened, but how can I look at this the way that maybe it was meant for me to look at? Because things aren't meant to break you, they're meant to build you. And if you decide to start thinking about the things that you can learn, which again goes back to looking at things with a little bit more of a prideless lens, it's unbelievable what can happen in your life. It's unbelievable how, I don't want to say indestructible you become, but it's powerful when, very little things can hurt you because of the way that you decide to look at them.
Super powerful. That's fantastic. Well, and that'll lead into my next question, because we know of one mentor, right, that really hit you at a very vulnerable time and said the right words that you needed to hear, right? So give us another one. Like it could be a business mentor, whatever, somebody to help you overcome and to take a next level step. Because, in business, it's not like we never make it, right? We're never there. Like it's a journey, and there's always another level to go to or another decision to make. It's not like it's ever going to go away. So like, give us one, maybe a next level mentor or something, anything.
Yeah, I think that something that was really powerful to understand is I can look back at my life through the history of my life, going back to when I was a kid, and I can see times where I listened to mentors and did what they said, the difference of when I stopped listening to mentors and I didn't listen to what they say. And I think that it's really important to remember that as you start to succeed, however you might define that you shouldn't let go of that coach or that mentor or that person that can help you, because you're right, at new level, every new level brings new devils, right? We've got to continually overcome different things, and which is why I continue to invest in myself, even times when I feel like I can't. Continue to invest, not in stock market, not in real estate, but in myself, so that I can continue to grow. And I think one of the greatest things that I've come across lately is uncovering the identity that we all have of ourselves, the way that we look at ourselves. Somebody said this the other day, we were doing an interview, said your words are your wand. And the things that you say, the things that you believe, the stuff you're putting out in the world is 100% what you're going to get back as fast almost as you say it. If you are addicted to drama, it's amazing how fast that stuff shows up in your life. If you are talking about how you're not this or you're not that, what you say becomes an identity that you have in your life. And I think if you get nothing else from this conversation, understand that the things coming out of your mouth become an identity. They become a belief. And guys, guess what? They become the things that you start to live out. There was a time in my life I said, I'm not good with money. Guess what? I was not good with money. There was a time when I said I'm worthless. Hey, guess what? I was worthless. Everything that I spoke became the truth that was my life. And so this is something that I've really started to discover recently. A mentor that I have right now, a coach that I have right now, is helping me walk through certain situations. Paying attention to your identity, I think, is so important. And it's the words you speak. It's the beliefs you have. It's the settlements you make with, well, I've always been like this, or I was always like that, or this is how it was when I was a kid, or whatever that is. It is an identity. And uncovering the facts that you can change your identity at any time you possibly want. Like, one of my favorite quotes of all time is Tony Robbins. I'm not going to say the quote because it's a little vulgar, but it's just Tony Robbins. I built this Tony Robbins mother effer. Like, I constructed this guy, right? And I think you have to look at the fact that that is a choice we all have. We have the choice to construct who it is that we want to be. And nobody, I'm not gonna say nobody, I'm a huge believer. My faith is one of the most important things that I have. And I've learned that when I partner up with God and I pray for these things, and I'm pulling up the wrong journal, I really get to build an identity grounded in faith. And, it's something that I work on very intentionally every single day. I spend a lot of time writing and journaling. It's become a huge habit and ritual for me. And I know that the days that I wake up and I'm relentless about, sticking to the identity that I've wanted to create for myself, are the days that I'm the most successful in my own terms. And the days that I don't, having a Grant Wise week, thinking I got it all figured out, are the days that I start tapering off and falling off of, falling off downhill. So I think that that's a powerful, powerful thing that I've really, really uncovered, just like literally within the last month, that's helped me totally transform the way that I think. And now I'm talking a month ago, and this is some of 2 weeks ago. I'm not talking about 5 years ago when I was sitting in the failures and those different types of things. I'm talking about times where things are a lot different for me, and, making that conscious, intentional choice to continue to improve. It's really, really powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I have so much to say about that. Okay. We're people of great faith too, and everything is, that we have and that we are is given to us by God. And we're so blessed to be able to work with the people that we work with every single day. And we tell them, we don't make stars, we unveil them. And that's because inside you, inside everybody, there is a star, and you've got to find that. You've got to pull it out of yourself. And that's why what you said is, I created this, right? And you manifest and you create what you want to be. And it is a beautiful mixture of who you really are authentically, because we're never as bad as we think we are. Mm-hmm. There's always some greatness inside, right? And it is a mixture of that authenticity of who you really are and who you desire to be, and pull those things together and present yourself in the way that you deserve to be presented. And that's what you're doing now. And I love to see that. And I especially love to hear, hey, this is not in the last 5 years, just in the last 2 months to, 2 weeks to a month, I've had tremendous growth, and every day is growth. So, that was just an inspirational moment.
I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that I distinct. I believe that God is sovereign over all things, 1,000%. And I believe that, in my life especially. And so this isn't me. This isn't an ego thing saying I'm in control, I'm doing all this, I'm great. It's, hey, I am fully and completely trusting in my faith, trusting that God has my back. So as I'm choosing this life that I want to live, I believe that, it is a plan from somebody else. I don't know that it's 100% my plan, because a lot of our dreams, a lot of our things that we're wanting, those are divine. And so I just want to make sure that I'm not saying, I'm so great and, God is doing part of it and I'm doing the other part of it. I just want to make sure that was clear for anybody that.
Oh yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but I thought it was very clear. Yeah. Okay, I definitely thought so. And we believe the same thing. Like it's just super important, I think, to give over to that humility that, that there's something greater than me, like at a foot here. You know what I mean? I'm just here to do a job, and I want to do that job as best as I possibly can. And I think you're living proof of that. Like you said, I have to keep going back to it, because to me, it's just so powerful. You wanted to be in 500 markets, you ended up in 600 markets. So you just,
right.
The sovereign God he knew what markets to have you in and why,
right.
But you still had the thought process. I remember this, I got to throw this in here. This buddy of mine, he's from South Africa. I can't do a South African accent. I can't do any accent in redneck country, right? But he one time we were on the phone, he was on the phone and we were driving, and this guy owed him some money, and so he calls the guy up and he puts it on speakerphone, and he tells me before that, he goes, listen to this. And so he's like, hey, you were supposed to come and have that, pay me that money on Saturday. This is like a Tuesday. And the guy goes, oh yeah. Well, I prayed about it, and I did this, and and it just didn't show up, and I thought it was going to go up. I'm going to come down there, and I'll be there Friday. God willing, and everything was just God, like that. And my buddy Trevor was holding his phone like that, and he's sort of winking at me like this all the time. He goes, so you're going to be there Friday? Friday with the payment, right? And the guy goes, yeah, I'm picking up a check, stuff like that, but it's totally up to God. And he goes, yep, but you must do your part. And then it was this dead silence, right?
Yeah.
Because, and of course you didn't come across that way at all, but I thought that, we have to do our part. You've done your part.
We do.
You realize that you were, I need to be humble, turn that thing around. And then you started making the focus on your clients and what you could do for them. And even though those results were shocking to you in a lot of ways, you said, we've got something here. And I definitely believe that thought process is blessed. And because the universe, no matter what you call it, the universe is going to give you back what you give it. There is no way to escape reaping what you sow. And the more positive that is, the more you speak into existence, the positive that will come into your life.
There's a great old mixtape of Earl Nightingale. It's one of my favorite things to listen to. He says don't consider your mind, consider the earth. There once was a farmer that wanted to go out there and develop a crop. And so the farmer took 2 different seeds. And this is something that we have to pay attention to. He said that the farmer planted one crop of corn and he planted another crop of nightshade, which is a deadly poison. And so the earth doesn't care what you plant. It will return what you plant abundantly. And I think if you pay the same attention to your mindset, your mind does not care whether you give it a good crop or you give it poison. It will return everything that you plant inside of it abundantly. And I think if I could find that, I'll shoot it to you guys if I can find it. It's one of my favorite things to listen to. But
that's
coinciding with what you were talking about, that's so true.
It is true. I've never thought about it that way. Your mind doesn't care what you plant there. It just parrots it. It just makes it come to life.
Yeah, it'll give you whatever you want, whatever you ask from
powerful. Hey, we could talk to you all day, Grant, but I
think that we could. Yeah, we're having a good time.
I have one more question for you. Because this is Be Bold, branding, there are a lot of people out there who really are intimidated about, putting themselves out there. They care perhaps too much about what other people think about them. They don't really know how to present themselves in a unique way and in a helpful and powerful way. What kind of advice, like what's that one bold piece of advice you would give to people about creating their own brand and helping to create that image and perception that they want out there?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to say that I have a little bit of an advantage, but my faith tells me that my thing is set in stone, right? I've got, somebody else that loves me, I got somebody else that cares for me, I got somebody else that's going to take care of me forever. And I didn't come across that at a young age. I came across that in a jail cell on a weekend because I was driving intoxicated, right? So I walked into a facility that I did not want to be in and picked up a Bible, clung to it, like somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, okay, you hear me now? Like it was just one thing after another that was going to bring me to the right path. And when I lost absolutely everything, all the relationships, all the cars, all the house, like I lost it all, I found myself. And I think, failure gave me an unbelievable advantage because when you get down in the ditches and somebody picks you back up, and when I'm, that for me, that's my faith, and says, hey, you are good enough. You have value. Jesus didn't come down to save the rich, came down after the poor, the broken, and the beat. And that's where I was found. And so the benefit that I have is that I'm just certain, I'm clear that no matter what happens, that there's somebody that loves me. And I think that if you will turn around, if you're listening to this right now and you understand that there is somebody that loves you, that cares about you. And if you don't believe, maybe it's not in your faith, you have to understand that the people around you don't think of you the same way that you might think of you. Because we could walk around from conference to conference to conference, and depending on how I'm feeling in that hour, somebody will come up to me and say, man, you are one of those brilliant people I've ever met in my life. And I'll sit there like, what are they talking about? I am an idiot. I made this mistake or this mistake or this mistake or this mistake. You have a totally different understanding or perception of yourself than most people do. So realize that, somebody loves you, man. Somebody really wants to care for you. Somebody really wants to take care of you. And when you understand that about yourself, you understand that you don't need the external because internally you are solid. I think that makes all the difference in the world. That made the difference to me, because when I got started doing this, after I'd gone through these experiences, I was 20 pounds overweight. My teeth were crooked. I had hair at the time, which I don't have now. It was really thin. It looked very stupid. I wore these glasses that were like $5 glasses from Walmart so I could stand. I looked like a moron, but I sat down in front of my couch in my condo at the time with my cell phone, and I recorded a video that helped me generate $1.8 million in cash the next 12 to 18 months. Right. So I guess my advice is just like lean into who you are as a person and understand that, you know, there's a lot of people around you that love you and that care for you. And so hopefully that helps.
Oh, I would say it does. I would say it definitely would help.
Grant, I think that is the most heartfelt and beautiful answer to that question that we've ever had.
Yeah, I would agree.
So we appreciate this. This has been extremely inspiring. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
No, thank you guys for putting on this podcast. I love it. I love what you guys do. And I really appreciate you having me on here. It was awesome.
You bet.
Absolutely.
You bet. All right. So, hey, I want to remind you guys, follow Grant on all his platforms. Definitely support him, because trust me, he's incredible. And you guys, for those of you who don't already know who he is, and most of you will, now you really know. So support him out there. And if you guys have any questions about helping to build the brand that you deserve and pull out that inner person that you know you truly are, visit discussyourbrand.com, discussyourbrand.com.
Hey, folks, you know, we talk about it all the time on the show. It's all about being prosperous, right? And that's not just about money, especially as this podcast will share. It's about the abundant life. It's about being fulfilled. It's about being greater to the people around you than you are even to yourself. And we think that's a 360 deal. But we know for a fact, just as Grant had talked about, prosperity favors the bold, folks. So we say be bold, especially with your brand. And thank you, Miss Tanya. And absolutely thank you, Mr. Wise.
All right. Thank you, Michael and Grant. And we'll see you next time on Be Bold Branding.